Hello, real American patriots. It's John Rose, and I wanted to discuss with you guys today why you should hate all journalists. It's a general sentiment that should be with you at all times. I know many of you have a favorite influencer, and I want you to disconnect your emotional connection with that person, any empathy you might feel for that person. It is better served for real human beings because a lot of these people are not real human beings. And I wanted to highlight that today with recent drama from Lauren Southern's reemergence. She reappeared back on X after being gone for a year or so. She's been very quiet ever since she started raising her second family now. But it's important for you guys to understand the full context of Lauren Southern's life, as well as the people around her. And generally, the conclusion I want you to draw from everything I tell you is that everybody here in this business is, generally speaking, a horrible person. You may think that by escaping mainstream media, you have now entered a new realm of non-horrible people. Not true. Not remotely true. Everybody in the alt media scene is also a rather terrible person. And I just want you to be able to know this. You'll hear a lot of people saying various things about Lauren Southern, so I want to give you the full context as far as I'm aware of it. So real quick, if you don't know the background of Lauren Southern, I want you to see that real quick. Canadian journalist, documentary filmmaker, and she worked on contentious issues. She did a lot of foundational work for the kinds of issues we discussed today. You can see her 2018 documentary, Farmlands, was about the persecution of white farmers in South Africa. Very relevant today, still happening, and we're finally pushing back against it. But 7 years ago, here was Lauren Southern highlighting this issue. Very important. Borderless, the next year, she starts critiquing immigration policies and practices. She goes to southern Italy and she begins interviewing people there, dealing with the boats, dealing with the crisis. She starts joining the movement of people trying to turn back the boats. And this is still permanently relevant. However, Lauren Southern has really opened up eyes to this all these years ago. And then she did a Crossfire documentary, which was on Israel-Palestine. So a lot of work that she had put in was really important. And she retired a few years ago from this kind of life, from working for Rebel Media, for doing all this kind of stuff, quote unquote retired, because it turns out that she's been working, but not in the same capacity. But here's what I want you to understand next. She went dark. She got married to an Australian high-level federal agent. We haven't been totally informed on whether the guy was part of an intelligence agency. We just know he was a Fed. And we understand that somebody working in journalism and activism, working together with a with a Fed, that's not necessarily a life that coheres together very well. Their marriage was kind of destined to fail because one guy has high security clearance and has to behave a very specific way. And Lauren Southern makes money off of misbehaving. As you could see, like in her book summary, the new book that she's brought out, This Is Not Real Life, she's talking about coke binges, MDMA diplomacy, talking about all of these things she possibly could have been doing that were illegal. She got banned from the UK, violated international sanctions. Maybe whether she did it or not, you understand, Lauren Southern makes money off of misbehaving, and her husband was not going to benefit from that particularly. So they had a very mismatched marriage that continued accelerating into poorer and poorer circumstances. And this is the thing that people didn't really catch on to. And when I first saw all of this, I was confused. I saw this article a year ago, Lauren Southern, How My Trad Life Turned Toxic. The online ideology doesn't work in the real world. And if you go down and read this article, she starts explaining things about how Oh, my husband kept me trapped in a cage. My husband kept me locked away from the world. And it was all really horrible. And when I first read all of it, I believed her because she sounded like someone in my personal life that had gone through a similar situation. Domestic abuse, trapped in your home, not allowed to go outside. It sounded like she was being pushed through a very similar situation to one of my friends. And I went, oh, that's horrible, Lauren. I can't believe you went through that. But of course, play me the fool, play everyone who would ever trust this woman a fool. The husband came out and explained exactly the details behind why she, quote, was caged up, unquote, in her home. It was not the situation. She just had contentions with her husband about going to specific places. Do you want to know why her husband started being wary of her flying to wherever the hell she wants? Well, I'm going to let you know by reading some texts. These are some texts from 2023 talking with Lauren Southern's ex-husband, the federal agent. And while you guys are reading this, just keep in mind, I'm going to be censoring a bit of it for anybody listening on audio, but I'm going to give you enough information to understand what's being said. Here are conversations that Rollo Tomasi had with Lauren Southern's ex-husband. Question: what was her involvement with Andrew Tate? ? I have to be very careful about this. Preface: in her new book, explaining how horrible her life in right-wing journalism was, which it was in many ways, she is explaining that she was R-worded by Andrew Tate. She was violated by Andrew Tate. And the way that she phrases it, it sounds like something that was completely pushed on her, like out of nowhere. You know, oh, he kissed me. I felt weird. I kissed him back to not make it weird or anything. And then she describes a bunch of horrible events that happened to her. Well, here is the retelling from her ex-husband's point of view. I can answer this as she used to cry about this to me a few times. It seemed like it was getting out online or something. Someone she had screwed over was trying to blackmail her back. I believe Milo, again, I am a normal person. I have a normal professional life. WTF is all of this. It is not normal. So to really summarize, her and Tommy Robinson approached Andrew Tate to contribute money to an alt-right documentary. They went there and saw him personally in Romania. Lauren was attracted to Andrew Tate and visited him a few times. Remember, they live in different countries. This guy lives in Romania. By the way, half English person, half Somalian, living in Romania, which should send off alarm bells to anybody with self-preservation instincts. Why is a guy that doesn't even have the ancestry of this country living in this country? And the answer is because he's trying to get away with crimes. They were there and saw him personally in Romania. Lauren was attracted to him and visited him a few times and started making out and hanging out with him during the trip. Then she went back alone to this foreign country to secure money for the project. She got very drunk and she was on her stomach on his bed. And then it's going to describe what he did to violate her. It's very ugly. You can read it on screen if you want to. It's disgusting. Andrew Tate is a disgusting human being. I want only the worst for this human being. And the reason I say the worst is because I don't want to say the things that would get this video demonetized, but you understand. Violated her in a very violent manner. And after all of this happened, he said, so what? I R-worded you. You can't do anything about it. Fuck off. She was traumatized by all this and had a few days later had a cocaine bender in London with Tommy Robinson and her film crew. In the process, got wasted again, gave Tommy Robinson a BJ. Despite him being married, apparently Tommy told her that he and his wife were splitting up, which is also disgusting. hate the fact that now Tommy Robinson is someone I have to hate. But like I said, all your heroes get destroyed in a blast instant. The longer and longer that you listen to these people and how they behave in their personal life, that is the point. The point is, the longer you hear about the disgusting, abominable crap that these people are up to, the less you are going to be able to relate to them as human beings, which is part of why they have to frame it in a specific way for you to actually feel bad for them. Because if they just told you what actually happened, they would lose their entire audience overnight. She was ashamed of all of this, and we had a long and detailed conversation about this, all as she would be in tears about it, as she was going to come out on socials at different times. I remained supportive and caring. It was before we were together. She is a self-inflicted, damaged woman, mate. All for fame. It's actually sad. And again, you may think those are harsh words, but remember, it's horrible that this happened to her, that Andrew Tate did this to her. And it's also really stupid to several times visit a criminal, whether or not you realize he's a criminal. Put some dots together. Why is this guy who is not Romanian living in Romania? Why does he have all this money, and why is he tucked away over in this foreign country? If he's rich, why can't he just live in a normal country? You had to be at least semi-aware of his operations. She had to be semi-aware of the type of business he conducted, because it's just a natural thing of conversation. Well, where did you get all this money from? It wasn't selling Rolodexes. It was from pimping. So she had to, on some level, understand he was a pimp, if not a sex trafficker. But then she goes alone after having developed a quasi-romantic relationship with Andrew Tate, goes to this foreign country alone, gets drunk with him, lying on his bed. That all of this is ridiculous. And again, it's another one of those female situations where either women have no accountability for their actions whatsoever, and we treat them as if that they can't make their own decisions, or women do have accountability and they are able to make their own decisions, and then we give them the full rights of men, right? You can't live in both of these worlds at the same time. You can't pretend women have no accountability for their actions and then simultaneously give them all the freedoms that a fully accountable man has. I'm not saying that to try and say, oh, let's take away women's rights. I'm saying that because you either believe that or you don't. So if you believe women have the right to vote, and you believe women have the right to be all of these other things, normal human beings, work career jobs, you believe that they can have some level of accountability, that you can end up not drunk making out with the guy that's going to R-word you. Don't stay on the bed of a sex trafficker. Don't go to him alone. There are so many levels of neuroticism that would prevent me from ever doing this. And I've talked to other women that, and I was like, would you ever conceivably get yourself into the situation? Pretty much every woman I've talked to said no. And one in particular, a good friend of mine, said that she did all of this because of her extreme lack of self-value. She just values herself so little that she put herself in this situation, which makes perfect sense to me. Anyways, all of these people, horrible. Tommy Robinson, horrible. Andrew Tate, horrible. Lauren Southern is using all of this happening in order to destroy and dismantle the values and beliefs that she originally held so dearly. The great work that she did exposing actual violence against white people in South Africa, exposing the border crisis, all this stuff, everybody participating in revealing and continually covering this tragedy. She's throwing that all away to reshape her life, to escape to real life. No, Lauren, you lived in real life. You lived in a very harsh reality, and you had zero self-preservation instincts. You met horrible people, and you in turn either already were or became a horrible person in the process. Let me show you what happens next so that you can help understand why I'm saying that. Now it's going to ask, oh yeah, she states she got herpes from him. These are all things she's explicitly stated to me. Tell me about Destiny. I'm sure you guys know about Stephen Bonnell, little Destiny. You know, the guy, the little chibi guy that's been going around saying horrible, horrible things about the Texas floods, saying that the girls deserved to die, talking about all of these other things. And of course, he comes out with the controversy to say the most horrible thing possible every single time. He went unhinged last year talking about how Trump deserved what happened to him on July 13th last year. All of these horrible things. But this is Lauren Southern's relationship with that piece of shit. Lauren uses people to get what she wants. She comes across sincere about this as she doesn't realize she's doing it. Basically, once your utility is done, she forgets about you. That's why she has very few friends and struggles to maintain relationships with people of any kind. Destiny was her ticket to getting back in the YouTuber game as a somewhat reformed alt-righter, in my opinion. I had received information that they were hanging out a lot when her U.S. travel ban was lifted. Then they started sleeping with each other, as he is in some kind of relationship like that. Again, whole thing here, she's cheating on her husband. Destiny is in an open relationship, so technically, I guess, it's not supposed to be cheating. God sees it as cheating, but whatever. Lauren then got pregnant, and it was a girl. They then just started formalizing the relationship as I guess there's a kid involved. I do not know what happened to this child or anything moving forward since, however, have since been told she is seeing Tim Pool and he has given her a job or something. So she's supposed to be now, like, and this is back in 23, but she's supposedly working with Tim Pool, gotten a job, in a relationship with him, and she's using this time to tell everybody, reframe everything that happened to her. Her husband's neuroticism about her going off and giving men BJs, having sex with men all across the continents, and then reframing it as, oh, he won't let me go to a funeral. He won't let me see my family. He's trapped me in my house like a cage. No, he just knows that if you fly to another continent, you are going to be screwing some other guy. That was why it happened. And again, I prefaced this whole thing by saying I knew a woman in the situation that she described, and I am more disgusted by the fact that she is using her poor life decisions to frame herself as an actual victim when I know real victims, when I know people who have actually faced tragedy. It is absolutely disgusting to me that she is trying to frame this as being a bird trapped in a cage when I have known actual birds trapped in a cage. The reality is, she was promiscuous. Her husband couldn't trust her to fly to another continent without cheating on him. And it eroded their already precarious relationship when she was constantly getting into trouble with him being a Fed with specific behavioral expectations and her being a journalist, where the expectation is to do the unexpected and to usually commit crimes. Now she's using all of this that happened to her since her marriage blew up. She's now having a child with one of the most disgusting human beings on the face of the planet. Now she has to reframe her entire previous life as toxic trad life. She was never trad to begin with, by the way. But she has to frame it like that so that she has some sort of new audience with some of Stephen Bonnell's fans, with some bread tubers, with some other left-winger center people, whatever. She has to somehow fit herself into a new life, and for that she needs a new audience, and to get the new audience, she has to lie about her previous life. That is the point of this book that she just released. The point of this book is after she reframed her broken marriage that she broke, she now has to reframe her entire life up to this point as this really crazy adventure she went on And it's not her fault. It's all because she was led hook, line, and sinker by the disgusting right-wing influencers, by alt media. It was all horrible, and it was not real life. Do you know why she wants it to not be real life? It's because she wants to deny the reality that her actions brought her to. Now, I'm not talking about just Andrew Tate. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about every single thing she did to destroy herself with drugs, with sex, with affairs, with travel, and with all of these things she has done. She has to reframe it as not reality so that she can deny it and live some sort of new life wholly detached from all of her poor life decisions. That is what this book is. And you understand that I'm beating up on Lauren Southern a lot, but the real point to all of this that you need to take home is that all of these people, the people Lauren Southern interacted with, her herself, and most of the people in the journalist class are horrible human beings. After learning all of the horrible things about Andrew Tate, many people in these influencer spheres continued having relationships with Andrew Tate. Benny Johnson promoted Andrew Tate after learning about the sex trafficking. There are so many people in this sphere that care about views and clicks and don't really think much about anything some higher authority looking down on them thinks about what they're doing. They don't care. They're probably atheists, whether they admit it or not. They are horrible people. And that is why it is imperative that you, dear listener, do not develop parasocial relationships with these people. You may love the work someone does. I love the work Lauren did. You may love their work. You may think that they exposed the truth to you. You may think that your life was entirely changed by meeting these people. But the most important thing to remember is that these people are not real people. You might meet them one day in real life and get a little taste of reality. But as long as they're on the computer screen, they're not real people. And you cannot develop emotional attachments to them. You cannot trust them like they're your brother or sister. These are all awful, awful, disgusting human beings. So continue watching whatever you enjoy. Continue supporting whoever you want to support. But keep it in the back of your head that there are skeletons in the closets of each and every one of these people. And that is why you do not hate journalists enough. I hope this message keeps you safe. God bless you in all of your days, and Godspeed to all of you.